Hello everyone and welcome back to Typing Tuesday. This week, we will continue to explore the different parts of digital citizenship. Today, we will talk about netiquette. Netiquette for middle school students involves being polite, respectful, and considerate when using the internet. It means using kind words, treating others with respect, and thinking before posting or sharing anything online. Avoid sharing personal information, ask for permission before sharing someone else's content, and use proper language and grammar. Just like in face-to-face interactions, it's important to be inclusive, considerate, and create a positive online environment for everyone. Here are 5 examples of netiquette for middle school students. First, respect others, use polite language, and show respect to classmates, teachers, and others online. Avoid using harsh or rude words that might hurt someone's feelings. Second, think before posting. Consider the impact of your words or content before sharing them. Ask yourself if it's appropriate and if it could potentially harm or offend someone. Third, protect personal information. Avoid sharing personal details such as your address, phone number, or school name with strangers online. Protect your privacy and stay safe. Fourth, avoid using text slang when communicating with teachers or other professional texts, messages, or emails. You can see typical examples of this on the slide here. It is okay with friends, but not okay with professional communication. Fifth, use proper language and tone. Write in a way that is clear and easy to understand. Avoid typing in all caps, which can be perceived as shouting, and use correct grammar and punctuation to communicate. Let's take a look at a short video on this so you can get a better idea of netiquette. Stay tuned after for the Anime Club announcement and This Week in History. Have a great winter break and see you all after the new year. Have a nice day, everyone.
Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about something really important. We're going to be talking about having digital etiquette. In this case, since we're online, we're going to call it netiquette. So, what is netiquette? It's basically just having proper communication. Sometimes we ask, how do I address a teacher online? Or what is the proper way to respond and ask for help? And is there a difference between communicating with friends and teachers, especially online? Well, there are 2 types of communication. You have formal and informal. Formal means when you're messaging your teachers directly, and informal means when you're replying to a post or a thread that you have on platforms like Edsby. So, rule number 1, always have a proper greeting. Start with good morning or hello, and always include their last name. Don't just say miss or sir. Number 2, ask your specific question. Don't just talk casually and say, what page? Thanks, miss. Always be specific because they have more students and not just you. Number 3, be professional. Are you making sense? Did you use the rules of capitalization and punctuation? And are you being respectful? If you are, then I think you're good to go. Last but not least, always end with a proper ending. You can say things like sincerely or thanks in advance if it's an ongoing message. So why is this important? If you practice good etiquette now, you'll be able to respond properly in high school, in college, and eventually the workforce. You'll be prepared to communicate in any situation that you're in. So last but not least, try to be a good digital citizen. Ask yourself if you're being safe, if you're being respectful, and always think before you post. Don't forget, your teachers are always proud of you and they're here for you no matter what. Always have online etiquette and don't forget to be respectful, responsible, and safe.
Hello, this is Mr. Simonson, letting you know what's going to be our last anime of this 2023 year. This week we present a heartwarming episode of Kimi ni Todoki, which shows that often enough the best gift we can receive is one of friendship. And this is kind of a very fitting anime to close out our 2023 year. Very heartwarming, as I mentioned. Starting on December 23rd, check out the Anime Club website and click on each day to reveal the image of a character in one of today's most popular anime. So you just click, it's this advent calendar. I got this idea from both Ms. Balat and Mr. Lob. They came up with this. On January 5th, 2024, click on that date and look for a special message from the Anime Club. It's actually kind of a cool thing when you click on these and they reveal the character beneath. On December 24th, however, check out the Santa Tracker to view Santa's yearly travel across the globe. It's going to be located in the announcement section of our website. And this thing is sponsored by NORAD, the North American Air Defense Command. It's actually pretty cool to see where Santa's been throughout the world, how many presents he's delivered, and where he's come from and where he's headed to next. It's actually kind of a cool website, so I highly recommend that you check it out. So that's it. We'll be gone for the next 2 weeks, and hopefully we will see you when we return in January. Thank you very much, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye. Oh, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you. Hello and welcome once again to another presentation of This Week in History. I'm your host, as always, Mr. Simonton. December 17th, 1538, Pope Paul III excommunicated, which means he gets kicked out of the Catholic Church, King Henry VIII after he had declared himself supreme head of a new church, the Church of England. Now this all came about because Henry VIII was married to Catherine of Aragon, the daughter of the King and Queen of Spain, and she had borne him 2 daughters. Well, of course, back then you left all of your kingdom and your property and everything else to your sons. And he was kind of disappointed that he didn't have any daughters. So he said, you know what, can I go ahead and divorce her, Pope? And I'd like to marry somebody else and see if I can get a son that way. And the Pope said, nope, not going to happen. So Henry says, well, you know what, if you're not going to let me do that, I'm going to make my own church in which divorce is legal, but only for the king. How convenient. So he gets excommunicated, and we still have the Church of England today. December 17th, 1903, the world has never been the same since. After 3 years of experimentation, Orville and Wilbur Wright, who happen to be bicycle mechanics, believe it or not, achieved the first powered flight in history, controlled airplane flights. They made 4 flights near Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, the longest lasting about a minute in length. And even in that minute in length, it didn't encompass the entire width of a 747. That's how short it was. Kind of interesting fact, I love this fact about these 2 gentlemen. When it was decided how they were going to decide who's going to fly first, they tossed a coin. And actually, Wilbur won first, but he crashed kind of on takeoff, so he never really got into the air. So then Orville had the distinction of actually having the first powered flight. But the very next day, Wilbur had the longer flight. So, and again, both of them won out. First flight and longest flight. So this is not film from the original takeoff. What you saw before, that image, that was a shot taken. But this is the original Wright Flyer. It's kind of amazing, something so flimsy you can get up into the air. When you think about paper gliders, not making it very far. Pretty impressive. December 18th, 1971, this one is a special place for me. Capitol Reef National Park, which is in Utah's south central desert. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of a hidden gem for Utah. It surrounds a long wrinkle in the earth known as the Water Pocket Fold, and that's hit here on the right-hand side. It's kind of very intimidating, with layers of golden sandstone, canyons, and striking rock formations. And this is called the Scenic Drive here, and you can definitely see that it's aptly named. This is probably my favorite geological formation in the park. It's called the Chimney. I have many fond memories of it because there's many pictures of my father and I standing in front of it, and we used to go there during our breaks. Another geological formation, this is just right outside the visitor center. This is a place called the Castle. You can actually hike right up to it. December 19, 1732, Benjamin Franklin first published Poor Richard's Almanac, containing weather predictions, humor, proverbs, epigrams, eventually selling nearly 10,000 copies per year. This is where we get many of those famous sayings attributed to Benjamin Franklin, such as an apple a day keeps the doctor away, and early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Yeah, I should start going to bed much earlier. Thanks, Ben. Kind of a dark part in American history. December 20th, 1860, South Carolina became the first state to secede or to remove itself from the Union of the United States in a prelude to the American Civil War, which is going to start in April 12th, 1861, and it's going to last all the way till April 9th, April 16, 1865, and unfortunately it's going to cause a lot of bloodshed. About 624,000 people are going to pass away due to this conflict. December 20th, 1956, the Montgomery, Alabama bus boycott ended after the United States Supreme Court ruling integrating the Montgomery bus system. Of course, this was something that started with the arrest of Rosa Parks. The boycott was orchestrated by Martin Luther King, and basically finally brought an end. People of colors, though, are still trying to gain respect in this country, so something we still need to work on. December 21st, this is kind of an interesting. Every year, winter begins in the northern hemisphere, which is where we are. And in the southern hemisphere, December 21st is the beginning of summer. Now, kind of an interesting quirk about this diagram here. This diagram actually should be shifted somewhat to the left because that's our actual orbit. And so what that means is that during the winter time, our planet is actually closer to the sun in its orbit. But because we're tilted away from the sun, we don't get quite as much of that heat. Although people in Australia and South America, they get quite a bit of heat. And during our summers tend to be mild because even though we're tilted toward the sun, our orbit actually takes us further away from it. So it's kind of a cosmic quirk, if you will. December 22nd, 1783. I love this story. Following a triumphant journey from New York to Annapolis, Maryland, George Washington, the victorious commander-in-chief of the Continental Army over the British, appeared before Congress and voluntarily resigned his commission. Now, when George III in England heard about this, he's going, what is that guy doing? You're kidding. He's got all the power. He can take the country for himself. Not completely understanding what George Washington was fighting for in terms of democratic principles. And many people, even today, consider George Washington the modern Cincinnatus. Now, Cincinnatus was a Roman consul. He basically had lost his job, was now gone to be a farmer, because in consuls you only serve for 1 year in the Roman Republic. And so they had these group of barbarians that were invading, and they, hey, you know what, you're a great general, Cincinnatus, why don't you come back and lead our armies again? We'll give you anything you want. So he comes back, wins the victory, and members of the Senate say, hey, you know what, we want to make you dictator life because you're just that awesome. He goes, you know what, I've done the job before, I'd like to just go back to my farming, but thanks anyways for the offer. So a couple of years later, it happens again, and he's called out of retirement, he leads the army to victory again, and say, hey, come on, you turned us down once, how about a second time? And Cincinnatus, again, to his credit, said, hey, you know what, I really like farming, so, thanks for the offer, I'm really touched, but I'm going to go back to my farming. Even though they were going to give him power for life, he said, nah, been there, done that, I'm good. Same with George Washington. And even George Washington, when he became president, he served 2 terms and said, you know what, I'm good, time for the country to go in a different direction. December 23rd, 1913. The United States Congress passed the Federal Reserve Act, establishing the Federal Reserve System to serve as the nation's central bank. Chief responsibility is the execution of monetary policy. And if your parents have a loan on anything, whether it's a car or a house, yeah, the Federal Reserve is who they're kind of going, why are you raising interest rates? December 23rd, also 1947, the transistor, a very important electronic device, was invented at Bell Labs by John Bardeen, that's him standing here on the left, Walter Brattain, here seated, and then William Shockley, who's standing here on the right, who shared the Nobel Prize for their inventions, which sparked a worldwide revolution in electronics, which continues to this day. So this is the actual device here. You can see both a nice close-up here. Don't ask me to explain transistors. To me, electricity and electronics is just magic. You turn a switch and things magically happen. Light I understand. Electricity, no. Why is my sound cutting out? December 23rd, 1987, Dick Rutan and Johnny Yeager set a new world record of 216 hours of continuous flight around the world without refueling. The aircraft Voyager traveled 24,986 miles at a speed of about 115 miles per hour. So that's 84 miles greater than the entire circumference of the Earth at the equator. And they did that without refueling. And my father and I actually flew up to Mojave where the plane was stored. We actually got to see it firsthand. It's actually a pretty substantial aircraft. Notable birthdays, December 17th, Deborah Sampson. She was born in Plimpton, Massachusetts. During the American Revolutionary War, she disguised herself as a man and enlisted in the Continental Army under the name Robert Shurtleff. Although she was wounded in battle, she was not discovered until a severe fever unmasked her identity. She was then dismissed from the Army in 1783. In later life, she lectured professionally on her wartime experience. So, Ms. Sampson, thank you for your service for the nation. Next, on the 19th of December, we have Carter Woodson. He was born in New Canton, Virginia. He introduced black studies to American colleges and universities. His works included The Negro in Our History and the Education of the Negro prior to 1861. And it should be noted that African American studies is pretty much part of the curriculum in basically every single university in the country today. The American industrialist, Harvey S. Firestone. If you've heard that name Firestone before, there's a good reason for it. He was born in Columbiana County, Ohio, and he founded the Firestone Tire and Rubber Company. Yes, tires. And was a close friend of Henry Ford. Kind of makes sense because the guy basically created the Model T car, and Thomas Edison. Now, not a great figure, but definitely notable. 21st of December, Joseph Stalin. He's a Soviet leader who was born in the village of Gori in Georgia, Russia. During the quarter of a century preceding his death, the Soviet dictator exercised greater political power than any other figure in history, and even talking about the Roman emperors. Stalin industrialized the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic, more commonly known as simply the USSR, forcibly took away private ownership of farmlands and gave it to peasants, helped to defeat Germany through 1941 to 1945, Poland, Hungary, Romania, Czechoslovakia, increased his power by intensive police terror, I don't like that, by killing nearly 20 million of his own citizens through the use of labor camps, forced collectivization, famine, and execution. So, not a nice guy, but extremely influential. All right, next on the 22nd of December, we have the Italian composer Giacomo Puccini. He was born in Lucca, Italy. He is widely considered the greatest Italian opera composer. For me, I'm more partial to Gioacchino Rossini, maybe Verdi, but many people consider Puccini here as the greatest composer. He's best known for his popular works such as Madame Butterfly, which is you're listening to the background, and also La Boheme. Finally, in the 23rd of December, we come to the Mormon prophet Joseph Smith. He was born in Sharon, Vermont. He founded the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, better known as the Mormon Church. Smith established thriving cities in Ohio, Missouri, and Illinois. He produced volumes of Scripture, which are holy writings, sent missionaries throughout the world, orchestrated the building of temples. Joseph was persecuted much of his adult life and unfortunately later was killed with his brother Hiram by a mob in Carthage, Illinois on June 27, 1844. He was 39 years of age. So that concludes Mr. Simonson's This Week in History. Thank you for joining. There will be no presentations the next 2 weeks. It will be on Christmas break, so I hope you enjoy your holidays, and we'll see you again in January when you return. Thank you very much.